first speaker tonight. And her evaluator is none other than our general evaluator doing double duty. Please explain to us Toastmaster Sruthie's objectives.
My honor, Toastmaster of the Day. Shruthi is speaking from the Presentation Mastery Level 5 elective, Lessons Learned. The purpose of this project is for the member to learn about and apply skills needed to run a Lessons Learned meeting during a project or after its completion. She has to explain to us how some aspect of her leadership experience and the impact of a Lessons Learned meeting to us. It is 5 to 7 minute speech. Toastmaster of the Day.
Shruthi is going to tell us tonight her path, her journey, her experience of learning all about Toastmasters. Toastmaster Shruthi Ainam, Lessons Learned. Lessons Learned.
Thank you, Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and most welcome guests. I know we don't have guests. Okay, so as a project manager in the field of information technology, conducting a lessons learned meeting is very much imperative in order for us to continuously learn from our experiences and successes, as well as understand the areas of improvements. Lessons learned meeting is just not for projects where the budget is like 1 million or 5 million, etc. A lessons learned meeting can also be there for an extra small project or a medium-sized project and an extra large project. And every project is unique, right? A project can have a varying budget, as I initially mentioned. A project can have different kind of stakeholders. For example, I managed a project where there were just 5 team members, and then now I'm managing a project which has around 20 to 25 team members. Your stakeholders are different, so your experiences can also be different. And at the same time, a project can also have different processes that you follow from step 1 to the end, from start to begin. And let me tell you, it's just not constrained to a segment of information technology, because a lessons learned meeting can be implemented in areas where you have a specific project, like a task. For example, organizing a birthday party is a project. Cooking a dish is a project because it has a series of tasks in order for us to achieve an outcome. And let me tell you today, whatever I'm doing is a project, because I followed a series of steps, because I went through my script, I did an outline, I practiced, and then I am here today giving my speech. All these steps, once it's successful, based on the outcome, it is a project. Today, I would like to share with you one of my experiences with a project that I have managed last year, which is called Risk Metrics at my office. The experiences I faced when I was conducting a lessons learned meeting, what I did before the lessons learned meeting, the day when the lessons learned meeting was happening, and after lessons learned meeting. Let me get started with what happens before the lessons learned meeting is happening. The first step is gathering the feedback from your team members. One of the challenges that I always faced is none of my team members were ready to give feedback. Why? Because they are shy, or they don't want to come across as someone who is giving negative feedback or wanting to suggest areas of improvements. Everyone is okay giving positive comments, but they don't want their name to be associated with a comment which might kind of offend someone. There were situations like that. So one thing that I did was I came up with a concept called a slice board. Let me go ahead and share my screen quickly to show you what that is. This is how a slice board looks, where you have 4 segments. Like, I tried to to capture what went well, what did not go well, or suggestions for areas of improvements. Any kind of suggestions with respect to budget or financials where we were like under budget or over budget with certain sections of the project. And lastly, peer recognition, which is very important. Let me tell you one thing, that lessons learned meeting is just not about areas of improvements or any kind of negativity for that matter. Lessons learned meeting is also to capture the positives, the successes, and learn from those successes and see how we can incorporate those kind of successes in our future projects. For example, when it comes to what went well, there were comments like the team collaboration was great, the project management was great, we executed the project wonderfully. And when it comes to areas of improvements, there were again comments like maybe the requirements should have been a little more detailed. The estimates were like a little too tight. It was a stretch for us. So such kind of suggestions were given in the areas of improvement section. And when it comes to budget and financials, there were some comments about how the budget was managed. And here, when it comes to peer-to-peer recognition, team member X has done a great job with the collaboration or knowledge sharing with the whole team. That is something we want to capture here. What is the beauty of this board is whatever you type, your name is not associated with it. So when I try to type something, it just gives a comment box and your name is not associated with it. That is how the team members were comfortable with sharing their feedback, because they don't have any kind of audit or anything that is happening when they write this comment. Let me go ahead and stop sharing. That's the beauty of consolidating all the comments through a board, which actually helped me gather the comments from my team. And what happens at the stage of conducting the lessons learned meeting is, first thing, we try to set the intentions right. We are not conducting this lessons learned meeting to offend anyone or blame anyone. We are trying to capture the comments, the feedback, and see if we can implement the successes in future projects and learn from our areas of improvements. Just like what happens at our Toastmasters meeting, right? I give a speech and my evaluator gives me some positive comments as well as areas of improvements. And that is just for my sake, for me to improve and better myself in my next speech. So you have your feedback gathered, you have your lessons learned meeting completed. Step 3 is what happens is very important, because that is the step where we kind of do a retrospective and see how we are progressing on the action items which we captured in the lessons learned meeting. As part of the meeting where we discuss about our feedback, we also make sure that we track the areas of improvements, what are the action items for each of the team members. For example, for me as a project manager, I had an action item that I have to make sure that I include contingency in my project schedules so that it doesn't cause a stretch to my team members. If the estimate is like 50 hours, I would add a contingency like 20%. Overall, I would like to say that this lessons learned meeting is something which can be incorporated professionally as well as personally, just as we all do in our Toastmasters meeting. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you, Toastmasters Shruti. That was fascinating. Promise you, you learn something new at every Toastmaster meeting.
The first evaluator is Marlene Smith, and she evaluated Toastmaster Shruti. Please have a warm welcome for the evaluator, Marlene Smith. A project. Lessons learned. She gave Shruti examples from cooking. How would you make a hot dog in a bun with mustard? It's a project. You have to buy it or make it somewhere. To projects at work, to projects around the house. Everything we did, she explained, has to do with a project manager. And this was explained excellently in her titled speech, Lessons Learned. She took us through a path of how she evaluated a project at her technology firm as a project manager. She showed us her innovation using that wonderful visual aid, the slice board, explaining how people may feel intimidated by putting their name, but she figured out a way that people can put their comments without feeling intimidated at the same time. Very similar, taking her knowledge, wealth of knowledge, and participation from Toastmasters and applying it to work, and I'm sure home when it comes to the cooking projects and the cleaning projects and all of those other grocery store projects that we have. It would have been more impactful if the beginning was more impactful, such as starting not with a thank you and not with let me share or let me explain, but projects. We do them all day, from cooking to work to home. What do they have in common? Their tasks, their steps that we use. And also, she did define very well what a project and a step was, but at that time, that definition, I feel, would have been more impactful to everyone and the speech if it was at the beginning of the speech, not at the end. It was great, your visual aid, and it was great that you took Toastmasters and applied it, and then you took your everyday application of a project manager and brought it back to all of us here at Toastmasters. It is wonderful to hear it and continue on, and I love your visual aid. I think we all should have it for our home. Positive feedback is great everywhere. Back to you, General Evaluator.